Hey, listen guys, it's Brian here again. I just wanted to make a video on something I saw on YouTube. Heated debate on minimum wage with libertarian presidential candidate. I didn't even know there was anyone running yet for libertarian nomination. As a libertarian, I guess that's bad, but yeah. So, yeah, let's watch this video together. I'll pause it every so often and give you my thoughts and stuff in my comments. Alright guys, here we go.
I did want to ask you about the minimum wage. You've actually surprised me a few times in the interview with takes that I thought you wouldn't have, because most libertarians, for example, argue for like unlimited private money in politics, but you said, I don't want to go in that direction, which surprised me, so kudos to you on that. But let me ask you about the minimum wage. What do you think the minimum wage should be?
I don't believe that we should have a minimum wage in the United States. I don't think it's appropriate for the government to tell people that they're not allowed to hire people at a particular wage rate. I think that in a market economy, we ought to be...
Alright guys, that right there has already got me heated. You don't support a minimum wage? You know, that's just crazy talk. It's crazy talk to not want to raise a minimum wage. It's really crazy talk to say you do not support a minimum wage. You know, if we don't have a minimum wage, we could end up being like China, where anybody can make 50 cents an hour, or even less. I mean, they could only pay you 1 cent an hour, walk all over you if we didn't have a minimum wage. So, you know, for him to be saying this, and anyone to say that, is just crazy, and this guy I already don't like. So, yeah, just terrible. Yeah, it's a terrible idea to not have a minimum wage, you know. Workers would get walked all over. They would not get paid anything. 1 cent an hour, maybe $1. Yeah, these companies would just keep getting richer, and we keep getting poorer. That's a terrible, terrible idea. Alright, let's continue with the video.
allowing people to engage in transactions voluntarily as an ethical matter. As a practical matter, there is no reason to believe that in the long run the minimum wage has done a lot of good in the labor market, depending on how you define good, and you and I might define good differently. But the idea that we should be in the business as a government of requiring certain people to get paid more, even though that's necessarily going to imply that certain people don't get hired, I think that is an ethical conundrum that is an inappropriate one resolved by the government.
So let me ask you this. How do you fix these problems, which I'm about to lay out for you? There was a 2021...
Alright guys, so, you know, that's kind of a point that some people say that, oh, well, if you raise the minimum wage, you're only going to cause people to either lose their jobs, or certain people aren't going to get their jobs. In some cases, yes, in the short term. In the long term, though, that's not going to happen. You know, we can also make laws saying that you cannot not hire somebody because they want too much money, or the minimum wage is too high. So, we can go by that. So, it might happen a little bit, but not on a tremendous level, what this guy is trying to make you think. So, don't let him buy into it. Alright, let's continue on with this. Sorry I keep having to rant. I just have to speak my mind. Alright guys, let's continue.
21 study, the National Low Income Housing Coalition, they found, quote, there is no state, county, or city in the country where a full-time minimum wage worker at $7.25 an hour working full-time can afford a 2-bedroom rental. A full-time minimum wage worker can afford a 1-bedroom rental in only 7% of all U.S. counties. How do you fix that problem?
Well, first of all, I think we ought to have a problem with the way you asked the question. I think the real question that you want to ask is, how does that challenge get resolved, right? I don't think you want to necessarily imply that the only way to resolve these challenges is for the government to fix it, right?
Yeah, I'm asking you, how do you fix the problem of low wages? That's my question to you.
Well, I think let's address the question that you did ask, which is not a bad question. One of housing. In the United States, we seem to have continuously increased the amount of housing that we consume per capita for a variety of sociological reasons. That argues that people are actually able to avail themselves of housing markets in a much more robust way than ever before.
Well, this guy is an amazing politician. As you guys can see, he's, you know, trying to politician. He's going back to questions that were asked before. He's dancing around the question. He will not give a straight answer to the question. Kudos to the people doing this interview, because they're being very direct. This guy's not. You know, as a libertarian, I'm ashamed that this is the guy taking our nomination. Hopefully he doesn't get it. Alright, guys. Let's go continue on.
Which which is a counter argument to, which runs counter to your characterization of the market. I actually, notwithstanding all of that, I share your concerns that housing has become quite expensive, not just relative to the bottom of the wage scale, but relative to wages in general, and relative to GDP in this country, even more generally still. I think it's actually a bigger problem than merely what you put your finger on just now. And there are a number of answers. One is we need to change at a very fundamental way how we view local zoning ordinances, for example. California is the most stark example, but there are examples all over the United States that illustrate that when communities decide to, in effect, ban multifamily housing from certain geographic areas, it drives up the cost and significantly, and makes it difficult for individuals.
Okay, guys, even though the man isn't answering the question, I will give credit where credit is due. That is a fair point. The government does have many regulations saying, oh, this many people cannot live in this house in this area, and that's something stupid right there. So he does make a fair point there. That does drive the cost of housing up, but I don't think that's the question he was asked. He was asked, how do you task these issues without a minimum wage? So, yeah. So let's continue on, guys.
Individuals to access, both in terms of how expensive it is, but also makes it difficult to access in terms of how far away it is from places of employment. So that needs to change. Our housing policy really stinks, both in terms of finance.
He's got a fair point on that. Our housing policy does stink.
And in terms of zoning. Why it is a sociological matter that we continue to increase our consumption of housing is more complex, but I don't think it's one in which we should be injecting government policy. I don't think we should be saying...
You know, guys, I always say this. There are many things that I don't think the government should be involved with. In fact, majority of things I don't think the government should be involved with. But these are one of the things, like housing and minimum wage, the government should be involved in to help citizens and defend citizens, you know. Because there's people struggling to pay for housing and homeless people. So, yeah, this is why I think the government should intervene, even though majority of the time I don't. Alright, guys, back to the video.
Saying, people should not be living in certain structures or certain family structures or certain family units. I don't think that we should be encouraging people to either live together or to live separately. I think that those are things that we need to leave to families to decide for themselves. I suspect you would agree with that.
Well, just putting aside housing for a second, we can get into that, but I'd rather put that aside, because the question I'm more interested in is, somebody who makes minimum wage would have to work 89 hours a week to afford a one-bedroom apartment. So that's a problem. How do we fix the problem of low wages? I don't think anybody should have to work full-time and then not make enough money to survive and put a roof over their head.
I agree that is a real challenge. I'm not quite convinced that it's a problem that requires a government solution. I'm not sure what government solution that you would suggest that we interject.
Higher minimum wage? Higher minimum wage, for example?
Right, but a higher minimum wage would necessarily mean lower employment at the bottom end.
That's not actually true. So I have a recent study from 2023. Economists studied 47 large U.S. counties where the minimum wage was lifted to $15 an hour versus counties that did not lift the minimum wage since 2009. They found first it was successful at actually lifting wages, which is the goal of the policy, but it also found that the implications for employment of lifting minimum wage were actually positive. In other words, counties that enacted minimum wages actually saw more job growth, not less. So,
very fair point there, guys. That's the most common excuse that, oh, people are going to get laid off. That's not true. In some cases maybe, but the overwhelming majority, no. Oh, that girl, she brings a very fair point to the table. So, yeah, total bullcrap when he says people will get laid off and you'll have less jobs. Not true whatsoever.
So,
before I forget, this girl and the guy doing a very good job. They're really asking these guys the tough questions. He's the one failing. All right, guys, back to it.
One of the things you're arguing that's kind of core to your argument here is that, oh, if you lift the minimum wage, then you're denying some other people jobs. That doesn't appear to be the case based on the research that has been conducted.
Right. It's very difficult. I know what you're going to say, but you're going to have to understand how difficult economic research is, particularly when it's either across different localities or when it's across different time periods. No, you're right.
There he goes. This guy is far from libertarian. This guy is like politician. You go with economic growth. No, the girl brought up the studies. It's been proven that if you raise minimum wage, it does not always unemploy. It's very rare when it causes unemployment to go up, not down. So I'm just saying, actually, raising minimum wage will cause unemployment to go down, not up, because more people are going to want to be working because they're going to want to go to work. They're going to get jobs, and unemployment's going to go down, not up. So just putting that out there.
Economic studies are not able to put their finger on what the changes. No economist, even the people that authored that study, would assert that employment numbers were increased by the increase in the minimum wage. Nobody would suggest that.
That's what happened.
Well, it's what happened over time, but no economist would suggest that it happened because we increased the minimum wage.
No, I get you're saying there's no causation correlation, and we're not saying there is. We're just saying empirically that's what happened. Now, if they had raised the minimum wage to like $100 an hour, then yeah, you would see mass unemployment because people can't afford that. When you're raising it from $7.25 an hour or $10 an hour to $15 an hour, the evidence bears out that's exactly what happened. You had a decrease in employment.
Well, I'm sorry, you say it as though it were causal. I think you need to check.
I just said it's not causal.
Right, but
it's not positive either. It's not like when you raise the minimum wage, you're guaranteed to have more unemployment. That empirically did not happen.
Right.
And what happened is that.
All right, guys. Yeah, very fair point from me. If you're going to raise the minimum wage to $100 an hour, then it's going to hurt the economy. If you're not, it's going to help. So, this is it for now. I'm going to upload part 1 right now. Part 2 will be coming very soon of this video. So, thank you guys for watching this video. Please like this video, leave a comment, subscribe for more, and tune in soon for part 2. Thanks, guys.